Hey everyone, how are you doing? We'll just give
Happy
people
Friday.
a chance. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just saying happy Friday, Bobby. Go ahead.
Yeah, just give people a chance to come in. People might not be expecting it. So yeah, we'll give them a minute or two. Who was first this week? I think it was Mitch, I guess, MCH. He did a pretty good job there.
Yeah, I saw him. I saw him trying to sneak in a little bit earlier.
Cool. Yeah, I think we've been getting most of our guys through the recorded listing on the podcast now, which get lots more ever since we started doing that. So it's been a great initiative to have them posted, I guess, in an official podcast that people can reference.
Yeah, I was actually playing that in the in my car the other day, making the wife listen to me talk on here.
Wow. So yeah, I guess we'll kick off then. Thanks everyone for joining us on this You Heard week 25. I'll just give a chance to everyone else to say hi.
Hey, everyone. Happy Friday as usual. Good to see you all here.
Yep. Hey everyone, TGIF.
Everyone, happy Friday, and thanks for joining.
Hello, happy Friday.
Cool. And yeah, we're all available on Discord at any time, so please do reach out if you've got any questions. Yeah, this week we wanted to talk about the upcoming release again of V3. That's obviously the hot topic right now. It's a chance to give some more insight into the project and to discuss the changes that we've been implementing this week. A couple of days ago, I shared a Medium article, and we talked about how we're adding yAxis as a gauge and combining the two rewards pools together. So the benefits of that are it allows token holders to withdraw their principal yAxis, because withholding access to someone's investment doesn't sometimes account for something that happens, such as a medical bill that pops up and you need to pay that, right? So forcing people to not be able to access that isn't sometimes the best, and it's not usually what we do with the vaults, for example. So with the vaults, we also don't mandate any period of time that you have to lock up for your principal investment. So that was one of the benefits. The other was to align tokenomics across the platform. So if we maintain two different sets of users, like the yAxis holders and Vault users, it starts to become a bit muddy or difficult to balance out those incentives over time. Especially if we're treating Vault users, who are the ones generating us revenue, by the way. If we're treating them like a second-class citizen and giving them like a lower amount of tokens, it starts to be a bit like, well, why would I be a Vault user? I might as well just be a yAxis holder. And I guess the impact is that we're going to have one rewards pool, like I said, and that's going to be a combined rate of about 250,000 tokens per month going into it. Yeah, and if you want any more information on that, I kind of typed up in the Medium article, but yeah, happy to follow up on that as well. The C4 audit process is now in the awarding stage, so all the findings have been agreed or resolved. The Haichi audit findings were also resolved. There was just a few on that. Both reports will be released in the near future. The languages on the platform, we've got like a multi-language tool. So we're trying to find some more accurate translations for some particular words. And you can imagine things like liquidity pool don't really translate very well. They can be quite a confusing translation there. So although the functionality is there, it might not be fully implemented or perfect translation to some native speakers. The harvest function we've been working on pretty hard for a couple of weeks now. That's Gaines Goblin mainly that's been doing that. That's just now awaiting sign-off before being merged. So prior harvest, we're getting front-run pretty badly. It's been a huge pain for months now, so it's nice to have that finally finished. And then also because we're now doing these convex strategies, the function had to be expanded to also incorporate sushi swap, because some of the tokens that we'll be harvesting are on sushi. So front-end dev tells us it expects to have the changes to the gauge finished off by Sunday now, and that's obviously barring any hurdles or problems that appear. So we're at the moment aiming for Sunday. We've had a design refresh in the background, so the entire UI UX is being done over essentially, and that's waiting to go. So the first release that we'll see is just a functional UI, but we'll be implementing the refreshed design straight afterwards. So we've got two front-end devs, Get Gouda and also Has, who's actually been working on Solidity, but he's actually usually a front-end developer. So the two of them will be able to tie that up pretty quickly to make a nice looking UI, which is more intuitive for the users, who might not be familiar with the concept of gauges. I wanted to also go over some of the FAQ on the gauges, because looking ahead at some of the questions, I think there's still a little bit of misunderstanding there, and that's totally natural because it is actually quite a confusing subject. So gauges are like spokes on a bicycle wheel, and they're all funded from a central, like a rewards pool essentially, and they're competing against each other for those missions. So yAxis is now one of those spokes on the wheel, just as a link vault is another. So for holders, the way it works is that you can still simply stake your yAxis and earn more of it, just as an era one. So there's no real change there for you. Or you can then choose to lock up a portion of your yAxis. You don't have to lock up all of it, just a portion of it for a period of time in order to get VE yAxis. And that stands for voting escrowed yAxis, essentially locked yAxis, right? And that VE yAxis is used to firstly vote for the rewards distribution every week, and two, to earn a share of the platform fees. So the longer you lock, the more VE yAxis you get. And that's a totally linear relationship for whichever period of time you choose to lock for, between 1 week and 1 year. So at the end of your lock, you can remove the tokens, or you can choose to relock for a different period of time in order to get a different amount of VE yAxis. Otherwise, at the end of that lock period, you just continue to hold that same amount of VE yAxis and the voting rights that it conveys until you withdraw the tokens. So you can change your vote every 10 days, and all of the votes are pooled and applied together on a weekly cadence. So you could change your vote like midweek, for example, but it won't actually get applied until a few days later, together with everyone else's. You also don't have to vote. It's obviously a complex feature, and I'm sure that a lot of Curve's users do not use the voting feature as well. But that vote does happen, like I said, every week, and the reward distribution is then updated. If you don't change your vote, then it just remains applied until you either do change it or the tokens are withdrawn. So the first week is going to be it's just a completely even distribution amongst gauges, and then following that, during the first week, it's then dependent on the vote. So yAxis holders will have a big advantage at the very beginning in that they can, they do own all of the yAxis already essentially, and so they can heavily skew the emissions in their favor for quite some time. So instead of the 200,000 a month rate going towards them, they're now going to have a shot at the 250,000 per month rate going towards them. But that is dependent on some of them locking in at least a tiny portion of their yAxis into the gauge, into the voting escrow. So at the same time, that's great because Vault users now have a bigger carrot in front of them. So instead of only being limited to 50,000 tokens a month, they now have the option to get up to the 250,000 themselves over time. So the weighted aspect of the vote means that slowly, as Vault users farm or buy up yAxis, they'll slowly reclaim a bigger share of emissions until a more natural balance is found in the future. And that's just what's happening with Curve. At Curve, when it was first introduced, it was a brand new concept and people weren't sure if it was going to work. But today it's actually working perfectly as intended, and that governance feature is really powerful. And Curve it's like $3.20 now per coin. It's doing very well as platforms and bigger players kind of buy into the concept of it. So in practice, at the start, like the first week, yAxis holders, you can get away with pretty much with locking in only a very small portion of your yAxis. But over time, you should expect to probably lock in a greater proportion of your own stack, as the implied value of that vote or the implied value of VE yAxis is going to rise against other competition that comes in. So overall, I mean, we're very much looking forward to getting across the line here. We're definitely in the final stages, wrapping things up. We're just configuring the rewards contract at the moment, which is, again, Curve's own contract. And then we can move on to Era 3 finally, which has got so much planned in it. So it's been a super long slog to catch up to where we should have been already. And we can hopefully finally put this period behind us and look to the future. Coming up in Era 3, we've got this that's ready to be released essentially. After we can get over that line, it's just the DAO transition blog and kickoff. We've got a security overview blog, a V3 feature set, there's a launch video, we've got user guides, some co-marketing with DeFi Pulse, There's some awesome community features which we're excited to reveal soon. We have a transparency and a financial report as well that's set to be released. We've got a big DeFi feature that's already in development and that will be adding on to yAxis, as well as continuing to polish up the existing yield aggregator. This UI refresh, the performance graphs of the historic performance, as well as adding on more vaults with more strategies and essentially building up the platform from there. So that's kind of my update. I've been rambling on for 10 minutes, so I apologize for that. And yeah, happy to go into the Q&A.
Yeah, no, that was a lot of good data, Bobby, and you actually hit a good number of the questions that I have here, so that'll save us a little bit of time. So first question I have, which I believe was from Abu, asking about, actually it might have been someone else, but asking about the 3-curve implementation and using that instead of DAI.
Yeah, so we already use 3-curve in the vaults, so it's not really a change there. It's just before, when we had this same issue before, we were allowing people to deposit either their DAI or Tether or USDC, right? But there was this arbitrage issue. So because of that, we make people either transition to 3-curve themselves on our platform or through Curve's UI as well to create 3-curve. So there's actually not a functional change there in the vault. It still uses 3-curve.
All right, thank you. And the next question, and this one I do believe was from Abu, marketing campaign and just kind of a general overview. I know we've talked about it before, but what are some of the things that we're thinking of doing? Maybe even some of the fun community-driven opportunities that we may be looking at for getting the good word out about yAxis V3.
Yeah, I mean, we asked and answered this question last week. Yeah, there's lots of different things we've got planned. We're not aiming to target, for example, influencers and stuff like this. We're looking towards more organic growth. We've got, like I said, things like the user guides and the videos ready to go. And we think that things like industry collaboration are really important things to do for that, for getting the word out. We, of course, again, want to leverage the community and the power that they hold in spreading the word. That's a really good thing to do. And I think, as I touched on earlier, we do have some really cool community features that will be launching as well, which are great for our own engagement as well as maybe drawing people in. I think it's quite a fun thing that at least I haven't seen done before. So it's I think that's a pretty cool thing, but I'm not sure we're ready to reveal that just today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The secret mission that I am working is one of those potentially very cool marketing opportunities that we'll have within the project, but more to follow on that. So the next question was, and we've brought this up before, but people are always curious, the semantics from our institutional partners. Have you heard anything from them? Have they expressed also the same excitement that we're seeing here for V3?
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't have a call with them every day, of course, but yeah, there's been no issues raised. They totally understand software development. They are prolific backers of many different projects in the space. Many people are being delayed for audits and other things like this. So I'm sure that institutional partners are very supportive of people taking the time to have audits done before launching a product, as otherwise having a project exploited which is tied to them somehow could then otherwise, of course, affect their reputation. So I'm sure that no one has a problem there, and certainly no one's raised an issue to me.
Yep, no, absolutely. The whole question of audits, I think the more time that DeFi has to mature, you're seeing people start to really understand and appreciate the value of a good audit, as I personally have attested to in the chat. So some of these other questions are just a little bit more complex, and I think you touched on this one a little bit already. But just to give you an opportunity, if there's anything else that you wanted to talk about, the question was kind of twofold: is what do we do today, and what will we do in the future that kind of differentiates, yAxis from other projects out there?
Yeah, so again, this was asked by the same person and answered last week on the podcast. The roadmap and plan doesn't really change week to week. We are a DAO-directed yield portfolio. We've got multiple yield sources plugged in, and we're aiming for a diversified, transparent, on-chain, 24/7 managed fund. That's what we do. The vaults and strategies have been made abstract so that they can all be spun up really quickly. That makes us more nimble and able to react in the future. We have a DAO transition coming up, which will then put the process in place to work together better to manage that platform, to manage the funds, in order to make yAxis a real earner and source of revenue. So to stay competitive, we'll keep adding features onto the platform. I touched on one which is already in development, and hopefully that then generate revenue and build up a store of governance tokens that give us some weight in base protocols such as Curve or Convex, as well as I think working closer with other industry people. So we also want to stay away from mercenary capital, I think. We want to end a reliance on token emissions, and we want to reward the people who are locking and aligning with our long-term vision through yAxis as well. We need to be long-term minded here, I think. Even things like Curve won't be around forever. And currently Curve fuels most of DeFi. So, I mean, if you look at Curve's emissions, they're actually over halfway done, and eventually they're going to run out. So that's where our approach as a meta yield aggregator kind of works, because it allows us to switch to a different base protocol when it's needed. And then also to look at other change, like we need to embrace other change that might become more popular. Maybe it's going to see a lot of liquidity go from like an exodus of liquidity from Ethereum towards other L1s. We've seen a little bit of that this season, and maybe that's going to continue. So we need to kind of keep that option open. Things like Solana is quite difficult to do as it's built on Rust, but other EVM compatible chains like Avalanche, for example, are more accessible to us. So that's things for us to target.
All right, thanks, Bobby. And I saw Abu, you put a question in here asking about the auto vote. Now, if I understand things correctly, I don't know that there's a really a logical way to set up an auto vote, because the things that you may vote on could be completely unrelated. But if you want to maybe clarify that in the chat, and we can always follow up with you offline on that one. And I see.
So when you vote for something, that vote just remains until you withdraw your tokens. You withdraw you change your vote basically. You can update your vote every 10 days, but it doesn't get locked in. Each set of votes gets locked in every week.
Thanks, Bobby. And I see we have one potential question coming, so we'll give them a second to write it. So DeFi Pulse. Do we have any more information related to the DeFi Pulse marketing that we're looking at?
It's a culmination of many different things which they do. They offer a package for co-marketing launches. So we'll be working with them to help get the word out, as they have a network, and there's many different people that do different kinds of like kind of PR support, I guess. So we'll also be doing traditional PRs, press releases, through various sources as well, just to get the word out. I think all of us want to just make sure that everything's working perfectly before we start spending money and drawing eyes onto the project. So we're not immediately on day one going to be doing some massive thing. We're going to do that kind of, just once we're super confident that everything's great and ready for everyone to be looking at it.
And his response is, "That's awesome." Okay, let's see. We might have one more question here, possibly, and then last chance, I would say, to get your questions in there if you have anything that's on your mind. You have a captive audience. If not, after this one, we'll probably be wrapping up this portion of the call. Okay.
I know that you're super keen to talk about your community thing, so maybe next week we can talk about that.
That's all right. I like the air of mystery in the chat. We'll keep it going for another week. Okay, so Abu, you're just asking about you're staking for a week. You want to keep it going week after week. I don't believe that's possible, right? That's essentially an auto compound on the on there. But maybe we can follow up with you offline just to make sure I understand that context. But at least as far as automatically re-upping that stake after a week lock, Bobby, that can't be done, right? That's not really part of the function.
Yeah, I don't think auto compound is the right word here. Like, you use your yAxis to vote, and once you've applied your vote, it just remains forever until you remove your tokens. There's no direct financial incentive to yAxis other than getting retrospective platform fees given to you. The staking of yAxis is different. So you stake into your yAxis just like you're a one and you earn more yAxis. For the yAxis, you just vote and that's it, unless you want to change your vote or you want to change the duration of your vote, in which case you'd get a different number of yAxis and change your voting power.
Correct. And then the options for that, is that in increments of weeks and then up to a year?
Yeah, so it's totally linear, the power. So if you if you lock for 1 week, you'd have 52 times less than someone locked up for a year.
Very cool. Okay. I believe that's it for the questions. And Abu, if we need to, we can certainly follow up with you after this and make sure we address any other questions you have about that. But yeah, Bobby, I think that is. Oh, and he said thanks. Yep, you're welcome, sir. That is it for this week's community questions. I'll pass it back to you, Bobby.
Yeah, so it's actually got through pretty fast. I think maybe I was talking too quickly. So sorry if I was doing that. I actually get that feedback a lot that I talk too quickly. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to either DM me or ask them again in the channel or Discord, and we'll try and get around to them. Yeah, I guess that's a wrap up for this week then. We're all very much looking forward to the launch and putting this period behind us and looking towards the future. And yeah, just again, can thank people for their patience and support that they've shown us. And yeah, happy Friday. Enjoy the weekend.